I came to alcohol, I was about almost 13 years old. Uh, I've become a pretend guy. I'm hanging out with some tough older kids, but I don't fit with them. I don't fit anywhere really. So I have to pretend. I pretend I'm cool. I pretend I belong. I pretend I fit. I pretend I'm okay. I pretend I'm not afraid. But it's all crap. Because the truth is, I'm an alcoholic without the alcohol, so all that's left is the ick. And I didn't know that alcohol, when I took my first few drinks, I didn't know that I was going to come across the most immediate and the most effective treatment for these secret little squirmy things inside me that I can't even talk about. And I first time I ever drank, I just loved it. I remember saying to myself, "My God, I want to feel like this the rest of my life." And I tried. And against the backdrop of how I am on the natch, I liked myself better drinking than I ever liked myself sober. There was a Bill Wilson in the book uses a comparison. He says we become a real Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And I understand that. If you ever read the original Robert Louis Stevenson version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Dr. Jekyll he was a pretty sick guy. He was depressed. He was a workaholic. He was engaged to arranged engagement. He couldn't talk to anybody. He never connected out here in the world. He was very isolated and locked in this world. And so he spent time in his laboratory and he came across this elixir. And when he drank it, he became Mr. Hyde. And for the first time, he was free. For the first time, he could come out and play. And he did things that were horrible. He did a lot of harm, brought a lot of shame on his house, on himself, hurt a lot of people. But then there's a passage where it's called the Confessions of Dr. Jekyll, and Dr. Jekyll is now Jekyll for a while. And he says, even with all the trouble, all the problems, all the harm I've done, I still liked myself better as Mr. Hyde than I've ever liked myself as Dr. Jekyll. And when I read that, I thought, me too. And that's the crazy thing. When I'm getting arrested, when I'm losing everything as the disease progressed, my family must have been baffled, and I was baffled how I could swear to myself, I'm never going to touch that stuff again. And then within a couple months, I'd be back to it. See, when I'm an alcoholic, I have an obsession with the effect produced by alcohol. And I had that obsession with that effect even in the last couple years of late stage alcoholism where the effect is gone. The magic is gone, and I'm chasing the ghosts of parties past. And I'm coming up a loser every single time. I don't know what's wrong with me. But the thing is, every time I drink, something happens to me. And people in AA tried to bring this to my attention that I have this abnormal reaction to alcohol. That when I drink alcohol, I have this abnormal allergic reaction that I break out in an irresistible, insatiable yearning for more. And I've always had that. I've never, I remember I was 10 years sober and heard a speaker talk about drinking non-alcoholically or socially for a period of time and then crossing over a line into alcoholism. And I remember trying to figure out, was that ever me? Was there ever a time when I was drinking and maybe for 5, 6, 8 drinks, whatever, and had one of my buddies say, Bob, can I buy you another one? Where was the time that I did what most non-alcoholics do and go, no, I'm good here, thanks. I don't need another one. I couldn't find one time when that was true because when I take a drink, there's this unrecognized, unrealized switch deep in the core of my being. And the only thing that flicks that switch is alcohol. And when that, it's the got to have more switch. And it doesn't reset as long as I'm conscious. Now it seems to reset while I pass out, and then it starts again. The problem with it, when I pass out, I get sober and I don't like me sober. And so the obsession with the effect produced by alcohol wears on me because, and I don't understand that I have this phenomenon of craving. And it's a weird, this is a weird disease. I almost died of this because I underestimated alcoholism, and for God's sakes, I overestimated myself. I think most alcoholics that die of this disease, we slide into our graves on a sled made out of ego and pompous and arrogance. And yet, and when I was in those treatment centers, if you would have accused me of being arrogant, I would have said, I'm not arrogant. I'm a piece of crap. I've lost everything. But I was arrogant, and my arrogance was demonstrated in the fact that I wouldn't do what you do, as if I was smugly above that, as if I got this. And I couldn't stand authority. So I was unsponsorable. I couldn't stand authority, and me and God are on the outs. And I couldn't take being told anything about myself. I just was so defended. And I don't know I'm that way. I just don't even know it. I remember how this phenomenon of craving just used to just destroy my life, and I don't know what's happening. I remember one time I had this. I was sleeping on a guy's couch. This is probably a year and a half, probably 2 years before I got sober. And my life is, I don't have anything. I'm like, I've lost everything pretty much. And I get sleeping on this guy's couch, and I'm just trying to drink enough alcohol every day to stay unsick. And I come to on this sofa one day, the night before I got really drunk, and I'm a blackout drinker. And I don't know about you guys if you've had blackouts, but I never did anything good in a blackout. Nobody ever came up to me the next day and say, "Oh, Bob, you were so helpful last night. I hear you peed in my kitchen. You hit on my grandmother. You stole my stash. You told everybody you beat Bruce Lee in a karate match." And I want to kill myself. And it's overwhelming. So I come to on this guy's sofa, and my nerves are shot, and I'm like nervous and shaking, and I'm rocking back and forth trying to put myself together. But I start thinking about last night, and I start thinking, man, that was bad. Now there's a whole group of people that I've embarrassed myself around that I can't even go near them. And my world is slowly getting smaller and smaller and smaller. I could have went to jail with some of the things I did. And I don't remember everything because my blackouts, I only remember little snapshots here and there. But the ones I do remember were horrible. And then the guy's house, the couch I'm staying on, he can't wait to tell me, all the horrible, he just gets such joy about telling me about what an asshole I was the night before. He just would light him up. And he's telling me, and this is bad. This is really, really bad. And so I'm having a conversation with myself, which I do often. And the conversation's going something like, well, I can't do this anymore. I could lose my life. I could end up in jail. I'm losing people that I can talk to as my life's getting smaller. I can't do this. But I'm nervous, and my nerves are shot. I feel bad. And I'm supposed to go down to this bar on the corner, Dots, where I meet some of my buddies, and we drink and we shoot pool, and sometimes we play music, and we do these are my drinking buddies. And God, I'd sure like to go down there, but I can't let that happen again. And I come up with a plan. And if you're going to drink again, you need a plan. I mean, it's not going to help, but it'll soothe you on the way out the door. And the plan is I'm going to go down there and I'm just going to have 8 drinks. That's it, just 8. I never did anything too bizarre on 8 drinks. That's usually north of 12 somewhere. I'm going to have 8 drinks. I'll slow sip them, make them last all night. It'll take the madness off me, calm my nerves down. I'll be able to have a few laughs with my buddies, shoot some pool. It's gonna be good. And it was a great plan. I went down to that bar. The original intention was to slow sip 8 drinks. I'm not a slow sipper. I'm like that dog that they used to have in the Alpo dog food commercials on television. I swear they wouldn't feed that dog for 3 days, and they finally let it out in a bowl of Alpo that would just devour it with an obsessiveness. And I'm that guy. I can try. My intention is slow. It's going to take my time to slow sip, and I just start. I'm a gulper. So, but the plan's a good plan, and I'm getting relaxed. The madness is coming off of me. The medicine's doing what the medicine does, and it's good. Until I get into the middle of my 7th drink, and the reality of only having one more hits me. And it's a good plan, but I just came to this epiphany, this realization that 8 is a bad number. 12 is a much better number. And it is a better number until I get to 11. And see, and I had the blackout that night and I did some hideous things. But if you'd asked me, so that was the phenomenon, the craving, that was the allergy people in AA talk about, isn't it? I just said, no, it wasn't a craving. Well, then how come you got drunk when you said to yourself and meant it you weren't going to? Well, I changed my mind. I always changed my mind. Alcoholism uses my own mind against me. And that's why so many of us, we relapse ourselves to death or commit suicide or just ruin everything. And I don't know what's going on. And one of the things that happened to me, and maybe some of you, is that alcoholism has a survival mechanism. So I'm defended. And as I got sicker and sicker and weaker and more pathetic, my ability to explain the unexplainable to myself, to justify and rationalizing things, to minimize my part, I developed stronger and stronger defense mechanisms for my ego. And I don't even know I'm doing that. And that's why it was so baffling at the end. I got this thing that happens to me when I start, I can't stop. And then when I stop, something weird happens to me. And this is the part of alcoholism that I think just about killed me. And I didn't understand it. That for all practical purposes, my alcoholism starts where the bottle ends. That I have a disease where not only do I have an abnormal reaction to alcohol that's going to condemn me when I drink to burn my life to the ground, but I have an abnormal reaction to abstinence. And I don't understand it. I don't understand that when I quit drinking, I get lost inside myself. When I quit drinking, I just get myself right on me and I can't get it off. When I quit drinking, I got that restlessness, but it's a weird restlessness. It's that feeling like I'm late, but I have nowhere to go. It's that urgency. I'm irritable, and I don't want to be irritable. I didn't even want to admit that I was irritable because I don't like irritable people. They're irritating. But I'm a judgy guy. And my mind only looks for deficiencies and only looks at things it can put you down for. So I'm the guy, I can walk into a room of 50 people. I only see the negative. I only see the potential problems because what's running my life is a defensive mechanism that it's like a problem seeking missile. So I don't think I'm irritable. What it looks like to me is that I'm very intelligent and I don't suffer your stupidity well. And I can see your stupidity so clearly. I mean, oh my God, AA, I remember feeling offended when they made me go to AA meetings. This kind of pseudo new age religion stuff. Oh man, it was just people. I just looked down. I tried to look down on you. Why did I do that? Because there's a hidden truth. And the hidden truth is I don't like myself. A matter of fact, I loathe myself. And that should not have been a mystery to me. Because if someone else would have done to my loved ones, my family, my life, and my opportunities what I did, I'd want to kill them. So it's no wonder that I secretly loathe myself and I've developed this defense mechanism trying to turn and pull everybody else down as if I could find enough wrong with you, I could level the playing field and maybe I won't be so bad and so pathetic and so less than. And it never worked. And this thing that Silkworth talks about, the restlessness, the irritability, and then the discontent. It's like I'm continually disappointed. I don't know what it is about me. And it has nothing to do with reality because the reality of my life is I just got the best job I ever got. And I'm not there very long. And I'm just thinking they're stupid. And I just blemish everything that's good in my life. The shine wears off of it. And once again, I'm stuck. Chuck Chamberlain I used to listen to a lot. He was my sponsor's sponsor. He was just an amazing member of AA. He said something one time that really hit me because it was true against my experience. Chuck said, if you're an alcoholic and you're unsurrendered, which means you're still at the helm of your ship and you're unsurrendered, you'll eventually get to a place where you will run out of things that you can put between you and you. And there you are. And there you are. And all the things you fought to have, those shines wore off them. And I don't even want what I got anymore. And I don't know what that's about. I don't know why I live in such a difficult world, an unfair world, an unforgiving world, a stupid world. And I can't see any good anywhere. But that's how my alcoholic mind captivates me and pushes me continually in a position where drinking seems like the only thing I can do here. And I many times I hit these horrible bottoms and I'd swear to myself and really mean it because I get it. I get what I'm doing to myself in my life. And I'd swear to myself, I'm never touching that stuff. And then this low level depression and this anxiety to the point of nervous breakdown feelings at times. The, the horrible loneliness and apartness would just wear on me day in and day out, and week in and week out, and month in and month out, till I just get it up to here with this sober. And I don't want to hurt nobody. I don't want to go back to jail. I don't want to do it to my parents what I've done. I don't want to do this to anybody. But there comes a time where I feel if I don't drink something or take something to take this off of me, I'm going to die. And yet at the same time, I know if I take a drink, that might kill me. And I'm stuck in a dilemma where drinking has become horrible and destructive, and not drinking is kind of horrible and destructive. I've had all my suicidal thoughts in the last couple of years came in periods of abstinence. or periods where I was drinking and I knew a truth about me that I didn't want to understand. I didn't want to know it, is that the magic is gone. I can drink until I die, but I will never get free again. I remember the moment that that hit me, and it drove me much a little bit later to try to kill myself. And I was sober several months in a halfway house up in Newcastle, Pennsylvania, and I'd been, that kind of feeling like I can't take any more of this sober. I just can't. I can't do this anymore. I'm so lonely and depressed. And what one of the counselors, right before I went out, he looked at me and he's trying to help me. And he said, "Bob, what's wrong?" And I remember looking at him and I don't say nothing, but I'm thinking, man, I wish I could tell you. I wish I could tell you what's wrong. Maybe you could help me. But it's not that anything in particular is wrong. It's just that nothing is right. And I feel like a fish out of water. And I can't even say that to him. So I just tell him I'm all right and I'm fine. And I got a weekend pass out of that place and I had to be back. I left Friday morning. I have to be back Sunday night. And I'm going to meet a buddy of mine who's back. I was in detox with. He's back to drinking. And he's telling me about this bar, my kind of bar. Good looking girls, great band, and I'm excited because if you've been feeling like you're doing time and you've been depressively sober and lonely sober for months, it's like, this is good. And I'm excited. And here's a funny experiential reality for me. The last couple years, the only time that was good was not when I was drinking, it was on the way to drink. The hour before I picked up a drink, I would get excited like a kid on Christmas morning going to the tree with an excited anticipation. And then the problem is I'm in late stage alcoholism. In late stage alcoholism, guys like me drink hoping to recapture an effect that is no longer available to me. And I went to this bar with an excitement. I had ordered two double shots of 100 proof whiskey and a beer back. Threw that first one down, that first drink, if you've been sober a little while, tastes like hope. Threw that first drink down, threw that second double shot down. I'm sipping on that beer, and I got that bartender getting me another pair of double shots. And I swing around on that bar stool and I'm looking at the people in the bar that are having fun. And they're really having a lot of fun. And I'm starting to sink into a depression, which I don't understand. I'm in an anticipation of being able to come out and play, of feeling free, of being one of the guys again. Only that's not happening. Late stage alcoholism, it's like paying very, very high rent on a house that already burnt down. And it's punking me out and ruining everything. And I don't understand. Because what's killing me is hope. There was a guy in Pennsylvania who used to say, when I came back after a relapse, he said, kid, you've not become an alcoholic of the hopeless variety. I had no idea what he was talking about. See, I still had hope that I can manage this. I still had hope that I can jump. I know I can jumpstart that party. I can get back to that effect, that feeling of freedom, that feeling of connectedness. When I can walk into a bar and I don't know anybody and I feel this depressive loneliness and separateness and 5 or 6 drinks and I find people that were like my lifelong friends. I felt a connection that was spiritual in nature, but I didn't think of it in those terms. And I'm trying to chase these ghosts of these past parties, and it's not working. And so I remember looking at the people in that bar having fun, and it like broke my heart because it was like a window opened and I could see the truth. And it was unswallowable truth. And the truth was, Bob, this pathetic, lonely, depressing, self-destructing drinking is as good as it's ever going to get for you. And you're never going to jumpstart that party. You're never going to get back to that feeling of freedom. And I didn't want to know that because I got a secret. The secret is without the effect produced by alcohol, I'm nothing. I don't even know why I should go on living. And so I ended up, I didn't get back to the treatment center Sunday night. I ended up coming to in a jail cell Monday morning. I don't remember being arrested. I was in a blackout. But evidently they tried to give me a field sobriety test, and we stand on one leg or do something. I don't know what it was, but I fell over and they had to discontinue the field sobriety test. And I'm in this jail cell and I can't get out. They gave me a phone call, and I hope I never forget what this felt like. They gave me a phone call at a time, at a moment in my life where I needed somebody desperately to be on my side. And no one would take my call. My parents want to have nothing to do with me. My sister, all my there's no more girlfriends. They've all fell. I can't hold a relationship. I don't have any more running partners. I burn people out. I break hearts. Do I mean to? Absolutely not. But I knew a truth when I couldn't get a hold, nobody would help me. I kind of knew something I didn't want to know, but I knew that I had done that. Did I mean to do it? No. Did I plan on doing it? No. Did I do it? Yeah, I'm the guy that did that. They created this untenable situation. And I signed up for an AA meeting in the county jail, not because I thought you had recovery. You got to understand, by this time, I've probably been to 150, maybe 200 AA meetings. Every institution had AA. And I don't think you have anything for me. I mean, you're nice people, but you say just your crazy things like, let us love you until you can finally love yourself. Oh my God. Stop it. Would you just stop it? And don't hug me, and oh my God. It was just I was so defended and so anti-recovery. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. And I went before a judge who sentenced me to 2 years in a state penitentiary and then held or stayed the commitment and gave me a chance to go into a long-term treatment center. And if I could stay in there a year, get good UA tests, good PO reports, and make the restitution, I would be off the hook. Misdemeanor time served. If not, it's a felony, 2 years. So I go into this place called the Ark House. Now, I'm hesitant to say it was a treatment center. And I've been in a lot of treatment centers. This was the bottom of the food chain of treatment. This was they just housed a lot of down and out, homeless guys, people out of prison. I mean, I was in a room with 10 people in bunk beds, and all you could smell was ass and feet. It was one of those places. This is not a place where you walk in and you think, oh, I can get well here. No, I can't. I can barely tolerate this. And I couldn't. I tolerated it as long as I could. But my emotional conflict and my mental torment just was relentless. And I'm the kind of guy that information doesn't help me. I'm the kind of guy that self-will doesn't help me. I'm the kind of guy that I can make up my mind to an amazing level of commitment to never drink again. And all these feelings start grinding away at my resolve day in and day out and week in and week out. And it's very hard for an alcoholic like me to suffer my own abstinence for any length of time. And you know what happens? It happens to all chronic alcoholics. I got to that point where I just had to get something to drink. I just have to. I'm losing it here. And I ended up, I thought, or I'm kind of stupid in some areas. And I think I can do this and get away with it. Nobody will know. Well, that's not true. I got a six pack of Colt 45 tall boys. And at three or four beers into that, it became it's very clear that I need a bottle of vodka. And with the beer and the vodka together, I mean, drunk. And I'm so drunk, it becomes apparent to me that the counselors in this place need some straightening out and they need some counseling. And of course, I get thrown out and I'm on the streets. And I don't know how long I was in this park. I suppose from the condition I was in it towards the end, it must have been at least 10 days, if not 2 weeks. But I remember coming to on this park bench, and I'm so sick and so tired, and I got to go down to the shopping district and panhandle enough money, just some change, just to get another bottle of that Richard's Wild Irish Rose medicine, just to dial my intensity down. And the problem is, I know something I don't want to know. I know that alcohol doesn't work anymore. And I don't know, it's almost to the point where I face reality where I'm not sure what's worse. How I feel sober, which is like I'm doing time and it's lonely and depressing, or how I am drunk because now my drinking is not a party, it's lonely and depressing. And I come to on this park bench and I'm shaking uncontrollably and I'm sick, sick. And that previous year, I conned a doctor into giving me a complete workout, complete physical. I mean, CAT scan, everything you can think of. He did it all, blood work. And I thought maybe I was hoping that I was hoping I had a brain tumor. Because if I had a brain tumor, then my parents would realize I was dying of a brain tumor and they'd realize how wrong they'd been. They thought I was a bum that couldn't be trusted. Oh my God, Bob, you had a brain tumor. We didn't know. All my ex-girlfriends would come to their senses. Oh, you had a brain tumor. We thought you were a bum. And I didn't get a brain tumor. Matter of fact, he said to me something that stuck with me. He said, "Kid, you don't have cancer or anything like that. What you have is alcoholism and it's going to kill you. But you're young enough, in my 20s," he said, "you're young enough that it could take 5 more years before it actually kills you." And I think so many of us become the drink to die guys. I'm just going to drink myself to death. Well, great idea. In practicality, it's very difficult. It takes a long time to drink yourself to death. It's like being kicked by rabbits. It just goes on and on and on. And that's why so many of us start thinking we can't stand it anymore. We start thinking about offing ourselves. And I thought about offing myself and actually with the thought of killing myself, I actually felt better. It gave me some hope because the last 2 years of my drinking, I'm an oblivion drinker. I'm not drinking to party anymore. I start drinking with the hope of a party, but what I'm really drinking for is oblivion, just to blot me out. And if that's my reality, maybe the ultimate thing I'm looking for is death. The ultimate, let's shut her all down once and for all. The ultimate, let's just blot Bob out. And I made up my mind that I was going to go kill myself. There was a bridge that I was going to jump off of down into some railroad tracks on the side of the river. I was going to kill myself. And I felt hopeful until I got on the bridge. And then I was on that bridge looking down maybe 80 to 100 feet or something like that below me on these railroad tracks, which I'm going to throw myself off of. And I got this horrible fear just hit me. And what the fear was, Bob, with your track record of bad luck, you probably won't die. You'll probably end up paralyzed from the neck down, and you'll lay in some charity ward for 50 more years because you're a young guy, and nobody will even bring you a drink. And your mind will torment you and torture you like it always does. And that broke me. And I couldn't kill myself. I've often suspected that if there had been a plaque on that bridge that said everybody who's jumped from this part is dead, I think I'd have jumped. I'd been in the air. I'm not afraid of dying. It looks like a good thing. But what I am afraid of is to continue the torment and the suffering from alcoholism. And I don't know that's what I'm suffering from. And if you suffer from chronic alcoholism, you're suffering sober and you're suffering drunk. And all the drinking was able to do in the last couple of years is just blot me out enough that I've become numb to my painful reality. And I never did. I came off that bridge. I shuffled off that bridge. I broke down. I was sobbing. I never felt so low in my life. I've hurt everyone I've ever known and cared about. I'm totally alone. I'm a failure, not only a failure at drinking and a failure at staying sober and a failure at every job and relationship I ever had, but I'm also a failure at killing myself. And the book talks about a place called Pitiful and Incomprehensible Demoralization. And I think I was at that spot. One of the lines that sort of describes me and how I got into AA, which I remember talking to a counselor probably 2, 3 years, about 3 years maybe. Drinking there was still a little bit of fun in it. It wasn't all exhausted yet, 3 years before I got sober. And we were talking about, he said he's trying to wake me up to the reality of my situation. And I'm not arguing with him. I understand that but eventually I'm either going to get sober and join AA and do what those do-gooders do, or I'm probably going to die. I understand. But I'm just not ready yet. I'm not, maybe one day, but I ain't ready. And here's what I thought. I thought what'll happen, I'm sure, because I've been to enough AA meetings, I hear your stories, is I'll hit such a horrendous bottom that it will do something to me and I'll end up as an active member of AA. But I ain't there yet. And I got to tell you, that doesn't work. I wasn't surrendered by the consequences of my drinking, and they were severe. I was surrendered by the truth. The truth is I can drink until it kills me, but the medicine has stopped working, and it will never work again. And I ended up in my last detox. I checked in there August 28, 1978. They had to burn my clothes and give me clothes from leftovers from the grab bag, I guess, or whatever it was. And they finally got me stable. They had to detox me for quite a while. I had IVs and I was in bad shape. And they finally got me stable enough that gave me these clothes I could wear, and I was able to go to the meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. The Buddhists say that when the student is ready, the teachers appear. And I think what had happened to me, because I remember going to those meetings, the guy that was to be my first sponsor, I could hear him. I could never hear anybody. I'm just too busy in AA meetings picking you apart, trying to feel superior intellectually, or just, finding fault with you. But I could hear this guy, and I could hear the other people sharing in the meetings. And I suspect what had happened to me is I got enough of me kicked out of me, enough of my ego crushed, that for the first time, I could hear you. And I asked this man, I went up to him and did something I'd never done before. I asked him if he'd sponsor me. And I told him, because I was afraid he was going to reject me. So I said, if you will, I'll do anything you ask me to do. And I think that was the moment I became willing to get my life out of the hands of the idiot that had been ruining it and sticking it to me all those years. But because of my cultivated ability to justify, rationalize, explain, I couldn't see it until I could see it. And I asked this man to help me, and he started on a path of directions and asking me if to take certain actions that don't make sense until you do them. It's a universal thing in the world of Alcoholics Anonymous that none of us come to AA in the middle of our depressive despair and failure and look at the 12 steps and go, oh, yeah, those would work. Yeah. None of us think that. Some of us just do agree to do it because there's no other options. There's nothing left. And that's a great line in the book. It says, before a guy like me would ever believe in God or AA or a sponsor or any of this stuff, I'll first come to believe in the hopelessness and futility of my life as I've been living it. In the books, I believed in that. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God, but I believe in the reality of my hopeless and futile position. And if you have been failing at staying sober and you've been failing at drinking, you know hopelessness and you know futility. And I started to follow his directions, and some of them were tough. One of the very early, pretty new, he had me turn myself in to the courts on the other side of the country and offer to go and do the 2 years. I mean, gee, I don't even know if I could do that today, but I followed his direction and I did it. He told me to pray. He said, I want you to get on your knees every morning and every night. And I said, I can't pray. And he says, why not? I said, well, I don't believe in God. And he said, I didn't ask you to believe in God. I asked you to pray. And I thought, well, if I said to him, that doesn't make sense. If I pray and I don't believe in God, I'd be a hypocrite. And he says, we suspect you've been a hypocrite most of your life. And self-serving, self-obsessed, self-indulgent, self-focused people like me, we live a hypocritical life because our feelings come first. I'll promise you certain things because I want the bragging rights of a guy that's a giver. I want you to think nice things about me. But when it came time to do this inconvenient thing I don't really feel like doing, I did what I felt like. And he said, I don't care. I just want you to do it. And I started to do it. It was one of the first actions I ever took. And I took it twice a day that I didn't believe in, did not feel like doing it. But I was surrendered enough to do it. And that's kind of what the essence of surrender is. You see it in war movies all the time. When someone surrenders, they're faced with extinction. So what do? They lay down all their defenses, guns, knives, hand grenade, whatever. And they render themselves defenseless. And then they sit and wait for someone to tell them what to do. And I guess that's a pretty good description of me in 1978. And I eventually got in the 1970s, there wasn't the big book consciousness that started to come about in the 80s and 90s. There was of the three legacies of Alcoholics Anonymous, all three were in place, but there was no in-depth big book analysis at that time. Joe and Charlie hadn't broken onto the scene. I remember getting a set of cassette tapes coming back from the 1980 International Convention where Joe and Charlie was talking about the big book. And my home group was a big book group. And we fancied ourselves as knowing the book. We didn't know. We didn't know anything. Because I'm listening to these tapes and I'm thinking, oh my God, what book are they talking about? Because I'm hearing these guys talk about stuff I never heard. And it opened a window where I saw some possibilities here. And I started implementing what the directions in the book. I guess I could have died of alcoholism if I couldn't have, my arrogance hadn't have been crushed somewhat, if my self-reliance hadn't failed enough. I got really lucky. You know, all the things that were irreparable, and I mean irreparable, through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, I got to redeem myself and repair those things. I ended up with a great relationship to my mother and father. But when I got sober, they would have nothing to do with me. I remember one of the directions my sponsor gave me in early sobriety. I want you to start calling. He started asking me questions. When's the last time you talked to your mom and dad? And it'd been a while. He said, I want you to call your mother every week. And I told him, I said, listen, I can't. And he said, why not? She won't take my call. And he said, I don't know where these AA people pull these things out of a hat somewhere. He said, well, don't call collect. I would have never thought of that. I mean, that's like, because selfish, egocentric people have entitlement, we're easily offended, judgy. And he said, don't call collect. And I did it, it was painful. I felt severely rejected, but it opened a door. And even though she was very cold with me and very brisk and had to get off the phone, and I guess that's what you get from someone who really loved you and you broke their heart over and over and over again. They didn't warm up to me a while, but I was told, I said, Nick, you just call every week. Don't ever miss Christmas, their birthdays, their wedding anniversary, Mother's Day and Father's Day. You have to send them something. And yeah, we know you can't afford much, but you have to do something. It's the demonstration. And I followed this direction. I remember the first Christmas. It was horrible. I mean, the best I could afford, I got my mom some little thing, and my dad, I got him like a $9 necktie. I didn't want to send it. It was pathetic. But my sponsor made me send it, you know. He said he uses a cliche, like, well, it's the thought that counts. I don't know. Do you ever get a feeling that when your sponsor just keeps throwing these cliches, easy does it. First things first, do you ever feel like you're being stoned to death by refrigerator magnets from a recovery bookstore, just it, and I sent it, and I about a week after Christmas, probably 10 days after I sent it, I called again. My mother got on the phone, and it was the first time. My father would never talk to me. I broke his heart. I was his only son. I destroyed him. All his hopes and dreams that were around me. It's the first time I could hear him saying to my mother, let me talk to him. And my dad got on the phone, and he thanked me for what a great tie this is. And he said, I'm going to wear it this weekend. And then he started to choke up, and he couldn't talk right. He was choked up with emotion. And he gave the phone to my mother, and the wall came back up again. But for a moment, something had happened there. And it happened because of following directions other than from me and doing things I didn't feel like doing. And so it was the beginning of a change. I had a lot of amends to make. I'm busy. Got a house full of dogs and people. Anyway, uh, so Alcoholics Anonymous recovery here in AA isn't for everybody. You know that because if you've been involved in the fellowship for decades, as I have been, most people don't stay sober. Most, even in today's world where there's more recovery than in the history of the planet, most people don't make it. And it's sad. And this, most people don't make it because the self-reliance in people like me and the obsession with making my own decisions and not trusting anything or anybody is so strong. I got lucky. I got beaten up enough that I was able to follow some directions. And the directions changed my life. See, AA is not for those who need it. Bet you some of the people in this meeting know people that need it that are dying of alcoholism or did need it and they're dead now. And it's not even for those who want it. I've had conversations with men that have relapsed again that are sobbing, telling me how serious they are about abstinence and how they want this thing. And they never get it. Because it's not for those who need it. And it's not for those who want it. It's only for those who do it. Alcoholics Anonymous is often labeled by people who don't understand because they've never been in here and they've never worked these steps and bought this whole package. But they label it as a faith-based recovery program. But I don't think that's true. I've sponsored clergy who had more faith and prayed more than I would ever pray that drank themselves to death. Because I think it truly is an action-based program. There's something wrong with me that's the same thing that was wrong with the Catholic priest who drank himself to death that I sponsored. And what that is, it's you know God's the answer. You know that. You have faith in that. But you don't understand, as Frank would tell me on the phone, I don't understand why I'm drinking again. And I've been asking God to keep me sober. And I'm drinking again, and there's bums, drug dealers, prostitutes, the dregs of the earth. God's keeping them sober in AA. Why won't he keep a man like me who's dedicated his whole life to God? Why won't he keep me sober? And the thing was that Frank had seemingly legitimate reasons why he didn't have to do what we do. He didn't have to write a fourth step and take a fifth step. He had confession. He didn't need to have service commitments that are inconvenient and belong to a home group that he doesn't really want to drive all the way across town to go to, because he has his parish and his parishioners. And as far as step 11, I'm ahead of all you guys. I don't need to do these things. And Frank had legitimate reasons why he didn't need to do what we did. The problem is alcoholism doesn't care. It doesn't care. You can have the best reasons in the world why you're not going to take the actions, and you're going to still reap what people who don't take the actions reap. And those who buy the whole package and make AA the center of their life changes. My first general service conference, area conference, I was a new GSR, and I heard a talk given by a past trustee, and he said something I've held on to this for over 45 years. He said that in his experience, 5% of the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous did 95% of the service and the 12-step work. And then he went on to say that 5%, if they stay through their actions of 5%er, they never drink again, and they get everything that God could give his kids. And when I heard him say that, I had some tremendous hope because I was in a group of people. My sponsor was a doer. My sponsor had been every service position there ever existed in AA. My sponsor started meetings into the detox I was in before they had an H&I committee. And he did it for the same reason Bill Wilson searched out 96 alcoholics, and none of them stayed sober. He sought them out because it was his medicine for the condition he's up against once he stops drinking. So I'm pretty active in AA, and I'm not for noble reasons, not because I'm a great guy. I found something that works here, that on a good spiritual hair day, my actions in AA bring me an effect that is very similar to the effect produced by alcohol when alcohol was amazing. It allows me to come out and play. It takes me up off of me and sets me free. Where all of a sudden I can see the good in people and I never could before. When all of a sudden I'm here to help. Many years ago, I started in my prayer life, I started asking God to give me the heart of a servant. And the reason I did that is I take the actions of a servant, but some days I really don't want to do them. And if I hadn't made the commitment, I wouldn't do it. So I'm doing the right actions, but I'd like my insides to be closer to my outsides. So God, would you give me the heart of a servant so I'm not arguing and fighting with my selfishness to do the things that I need to do to make my life what you would have in mind for me. And I think Alcoholics Anonymous takes people who are so self-centered, so self-obsessed that they love no one. They don't even know what love is, and turns us into lovers of people. As Bob said, it all boils down to love and service. And it does. But I have to put myself through the actions into the equation. And so we have steps to work. We have amends to make. And we have inconvenient service to do. Matter of fact, I'll tell you what is my experience, and the experience of many people I sponsor. The greater the inconvenience, the higher the spiritual coinage you will get from those actions. And this is my first Zoom meeting I've done since the pandemic. And because when the pandemic was over, I made it my mission I go to 10 meetings a week. Plus I go to conferences almost every weekend. And I do that because I want to be a force to bring Alcoholics Anonymous back to the connected place that I found. In my early sobriety, I found God through AA meetings. It's so weird. In our second tradition, it talks about the ultimate authority expresses itself through this group conscience. And I'd go to meetings some days and I wouldn't be doing very well. And some God would talk through some stranger in the meeting to tell me exactly what I needed to understand and what I had to hear that day. That didn't happen once or twice. If you keep your head out of your butt, it happens every time I go to a meeting. But I have to pay attention and not judge and not criticize and not complain, but be present as an open vessel to open me up so I can start to receive God's grace, which is my divine right. It's just my grace receiver doesn't work. My grace receiver is so full of Bob, there's no room for anything else. And in this 12 steps, which is a process of self-reduction and dialing me and my ego down, as I do that, I'm closer to you. I can hear you. I can listen to you. And I'm closer to God. Because in our book, it says selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. No wonder my friend Frank, who was a priest and was a great guy, he couldn't access God's grace. There was too much of him between him and God, just as there was too much of me between me and God, and just as there was too much of me between me and you in my judgmental opinionation. And I watched some dear people to me in AA leave AA and die, and they go out on a sled of ego, one judgment at a time, and it just they don't even know they're leaving. They don't even know, and yet they're the ones that die of this disease because of inaction. And I believe from my experience, and I work with a lot of guys, and I keep doing 12-step calls. I believe that more alcoholics die from a lack of action than bad action. You can survive some bad action. You know, you'll turn every time I was in trouble sober, I turned into AA. That's the one thing that saved me. There's some people when their life's falling apart, they turn into themselves. I don't. The answer has always been to turn the volume up on AA. When I was a couple months sober, I had a day when I went to 3 meetings, and I met my sponsor at the third one. And I said to him, "This is amazing. The more meetings I go to and the more service I do, the better I feel." And he said, "Don't you ever forget that the life you've been given is not yours. You are a steward for this life, and you serve the one that it came from." I'm glad to be sober. I'm glad I get to come over and bug the crap out of Pat in March. And maybe some of all you, I saw my friend Paul was on here, and a lot of people I've known over the years. That's all I got. Thank you.